Hi, third graders. Welcome back to your fourth week of Math Meets Literacy. My name is Miss Manley, and I'm so excited to see you guys again. For this week, we're going to do something a little bit different because it's National Poetry Month. So to celebrate, we're going to be writing a little bit of math poetry this week instead of listening to our normal math-related story and then doing a task that relates to something that you've done with Miss Yeager. So I am so excited to dig into this with you guys today because I absolutely love poetry. So for today, our I can statement is, I can utilize the elements of poetry to brainstorm, write, and share my own math-inspired poem. So for today, you're only going to need two things. You're going to need something to write on and something to write with. So pretty simple. If you don't already have those in front of you, you can pause our video right now and go grab those before moving on. So before we get started, why don't we talk a little bit more about what exactly is poetry anyway? So poetry is just a collection of words that expresses a feeling or ideas, and it usually has some sort of rhyme or specific rhythm. Poetry is all around us, whether you realize it or not. I know we probably all listen to poetry every day, because if you're listening to songs or if you're following things on TikTok, you probably already hear poems all around you, because that's exactly what poetry is. So how is poetry different from what you normally read? So a poem, when you look at it, is going to look a little bit different. So usually it's about one subject and it's written in really short lines. These groups of lines are grouped together and we call those chunks of lines stanzas. Poetry also often includes figurative language, which you may have already talked about a little bit in your class this year. And if not, you're definitely going to see that in fourth grade and fifth grade. But poems often include figurative language like similes and metaphors, alliteration, hyperboles, and even onomatopoeia, which is my favorite one. It sounds really funny when you say it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about those different types of figurative language in just a minute, and you may want to include those in your poem that you write today. Now, some of you may be groaning right now, and you may be thinking, I can't stand poetry. And if that's the case, you may relate a little bit to a character from one of my favorite books from all time. So this book is called Love That Dog. It's a really, really short book, and it's not super math related, but it's a fantastic read if you're looking for a good story. If you can't find it at your local library, you can also find it on YouTube, and you can listen to it being read aloud to you there. Again, the book is really short. But in this book, it's about a main character named Jack, and Jack writes this book almost like a diary. So this is an excerpt. This is a page, actually from the first page of the story. And you'll see it's kind of written like a diary where we have the entry, you have the date, and in this case it says room 105, Miss Stretchberry. So you may be inferring that that's his teacher. And you're going to see that this whole book is written in free verse, which is a type of poetry. And with free verse, you'll see that we have a sentence, but instead of our sentence going all the way across, you'll see it's been broken up into three short lines. But in this character, Jack, at the beginning, he can't stand poetry. And this is the line that he writes right at the beginning in his journal entry. He says, September 13th, I don't want to because boys don't write poetry. Girls do. So if you're feeling a little bit like Jack and that you don't really feel so good about this today, I want you to hold tight. And also check out this book, because later on, he's going to learn a little bit more about exactly what poetry is, and he's going to fall in love with it and learn he's a really great writer too. So let's talk a little bit about some figurative language that you may see in a poem and that you may want to pause the screen right now, and you can go back to it later. But these may be some things you want to try out in your poem today. So the first one that we have is a simile, and the simile compares two things using the words like or as. So here's an example. The cake was as soft as a pillow. So when I read that, I can tell it's probably like a really fluffy cake. It's not been overcooked and it's not super chewy, but it's really soft and light. So that's a comparison, or where the author compared those two things. Another one that you may want to use is a metaphor. So a metaphor is similar, but it compares two things without using like or as. Usually when we're talking about metaphors, we're saying one thing is something else. So here's an example. The gray sneakers were 2 gray mice in the closet. Now, you and I both know that sneakers are not mice, but when I have this comparison, it kind of helps me think, oh, maybe like they're peeking out, maybe they're under something, and their laces may look like a tail. So it gives me a way to think about the sneakers in a way I normally wouldn't. Alliteration, this is one that's all around you. I want you to have your eyes and ears peeled, seeing if you can find some this week. But alliteration, it's 2 or more words with the same beginning sound, like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or Minnie Mouse. Tons of cartoon characters or characters in Marvel movies, that sort of scenario, even in your books, they'll have names that include alliteration because it helps the listener remember it. So I'm sure you can think of lots of other examples of that as well. A hyperbole is when we exaggerate for effect. And I don't know about you, but I've been using that a lot in my daily life. So one you may have heard before was, that quiz was a piece of cake. Now, obviously, your quiz actually wasn't a piece of cake, although if it was, that'd be pretty fun. But we're saying that quiz was really easy. It was no problem. Another one that I know I've been using a lot right now is I've been saying, oh, I feel like I've been in my house for 1,000,000 years. Now, you and I both know we've not been in our house for 1,000,000 years right now, but it feels like it's been a really long time. So hyperbole is, again, that's when we exaggerate for an effect. Our final type of figurative language that you can play around with today if you'd like is onomatopoeia. I'll say that one more time because I knew that's a really funny looking word. Onomatopoeia. So onomatopoeia, those are words that make a sound, like bang or whoosh or beep. So they're words that you can hear and that we hear in our daily life. So again, if you'd like, you can always pause to this screen or come back to it later on if you want to try and use any of these pieces of figurative language in your poem today. All right, so let's get into it. Today we're going to be making a math poem, and you'll have the chance to share your original poem on Flipgrid at the end of our lesson. I'm so excited to see what you guys create and listen to your poems. And I want you guys to know that all different elementary students are going to be doing the same task this week. So from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. So you guys are going to be doing something really cool. And I have a feeling that 3rd graders may have the best math poems. So I can't wait to hear what you guys come up with. So if you're a little intimidated, I'm going to walk you through some steps today that you can follow when creating your math poem. But as always, if you have your own idea or you're ready to write a poem, you already have a plan for what you'd like to do, feel free to get creative. You don't have to follow my steps exactly. I want you guys to be creative and really think about how you can come up with a poem. But again, if you're a little intimidated by poetry or don't know where to start, I'm going to give you guys some steps today to follow that'll help you write a fantastic poem. So if you're starting with me, the first thing you probably want to do today is brainstorm. So like I mentioned earlier, poetry is usually about just one subject or idea. So right now, on your paper, I'd like for you to think about a math topic that interests you. So it could be perimeter, it could be area, because I know you're talking about that a little bit this week with Miss Yeager. It could be multiplication, skip counting, addition, fractions, polygons, a specific number like the number 8, literally any math topic you would like. And once you've done that, I want you to write down as many words or facts or feelings as you can about that topic. For example, if you pick the number 5, you may write down a fact like there are 5 Olympic rings with the Olympics in the logo. So anything that you can think of that relates to that fact or topic. So here's my example. So for mine, I thought about doing polygons. So I've done a ton of words that came to mind when I was thinking about polygons. So I included closed figure because that was something that Miss Yeager taught me. I know that polygons have many sides. The word poly means many, so I thought about that. I listed some polygons that I knew, like quadrilateral, hexagon, a pentagon. I also was thinking how last week in our story, we realized how polygons were all around us. So I put all around me. I wrote name clues because Miss Yeager also talked a little bit about how in the name, there's a clue to how many sides. Like quad means 4, so I know a quadrilateral is a 4-sided figure, as well as vertices and angles. So again, you may have plenty more words than I do, but right now, I'd like for you to go ahead and pause your screen and take a little time to brainstorm. So pick a topic that you're interested in, and again, write down as much as you can about that topic. So if you would like to pause your screen now, this is a great time to pause and brainstorm for your poem. So once you've done that, I'm going to give you guys a couple ideas for a type of poem that you can write. So one is called a number cinquain. And a cinquain is a type of poem that follows a specific pattern. So with a cinquain, the first line always has one word. The second line has two words. The third line has three words. The fourth line, you've guessed it, has four words. And the fifth line has one word. So if you would like to follow this pattern, I've given you some ideas for what you can write about on each of these lines. But again, you do not have to follow it specifically. If you would like to just have this, the number of words that are traditional for each line, that's perfect. And then you can write whatever you would like, as long as we're following that one word, two word, three word, four word, one word pattern. But if you'd like some ideas for how you can come up with what to write in each line, you can follow my pattern here. So for our first line, and this probably holds true for everyone, you can include the title, and that's going to be the number or the shape or your topic, whatever that may be. And line 2, for example, you can do a description of the number or the topic. For example, I didn't pick a number, I picked polygons. For line 3, it's an action. So what does it make you think of? For line 4, what about a feeling? How does that topic make you feel? And then finally, in our last line, we're going to repeat the title, but we're going to use a synonym. And a synonym is a word that has the same meaning, but it's different. It's not the same. So here's my example. So my first line was polygons. That was the topic I picked. Then I wrote a description. So I said closed figures. And you'll notice there's two words. The action, I thought about how in my brainstorming idea, I mentioned how they were everywhere. So I wrote down everywhere I look. So again, that's three words. A feeling, I said curious to learn more, four words. And then finally, my title kind of repeating again with a synonym, a word that means something similar, but it's not the same as polygons. I said shapes. So if this is something you'd like to use, you can pause your screen here, or you can come back to it in a minute after you see the options, and you can use this to help you write your own poem. So another type that you can follow today is an acrostic. And this is something that you may have done in the past. And an acrostic is where you write a word that's vertical. So it's one letter of each word per line. So in this case, it's almost 10. And then you'll write a sentence that begins with that letter for each line. So it says, I'm almost 10. So you'll see here, almost 10, ALMOST-TEN. So this writer wrote down, a dodecalathon has 10 track and field events. For L, they said looks like a young 100 with one less zero. For M, they said most likely to succeed. For O, they said on top of 9. For S, they said stupendous. For T, they said 10 seconds for a boxing knockout. Then for the second part, for 10, they started this line with T, the start of a double-digit number, even number, and then N next to 11. So if this is something you want to follow, you can pause here or you can come back to it, and this could be another thing that you do with a topic that you brainstormed. All right, our last option is a shape poem. And again, this comes from the book that I was telling you about at the beginning called Love That Dog. And this is a poem that Jack wrote later about his dog. So if you're writing about maybe a specific polygon or some sort of math topic where you feel like you could draw it, you can create a drawing that matches your topic, and you can actually fill it with all the words that you brainstormed so that your poem is actually a shape. So in this case, you'll see that there's a dog. So you can see there's his face and his legs and his body. And in this case, there's some onomatopoeia, sniff, sniff, sniff. Those are some words we talked about, slobber, 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 near where his tongue would be. And you'll see that the words actually make the shape. So head, 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 body, 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 leg, paw, wag, tail, yellow. So this is something that you could use too. So I definitely could picture this. If you picked a specific polygon, you could draw that polygon and then fill it with words that had to do with it. There are also some tools online that you can Google. You can just look up a shape poem generator, and they'll actually give you a template that you can use. But I find that it's kind of cool to draw it. So that's what I would recommend today. So again, you can go back in the video and pause your screen at any of these points if you'd like to follow them for the poem that you're going to create today. Once you've created your poem, we would love to see them, and you guys have been doing such a fantastic job of sharing. I keep seeing one of my students from Westover, hey Isaiah, he's been filling out a ton of different videos on Flipgrid. I saw Brooklyn. It's been great. So keep filling out or keep going on Flipgrid and sharing your videos. They're fantastic. I'm loving getting the chance to watch them, and I'm seeing all the awesome work that you're doing. You can scan our QR code like always, or you can go back to where you found today's lesson to find the link. But I can't wait to hear your math poem and see the amazing work that you come up with. All right, I'll see you guys Friday. We have a fantastic challenge coming up this week. And again, I can't wait to see what you all come up with. Until next time, bye guys.